Welcome back to another episode of the Todd Durkin Impact Show. This is Todd Durkin, and this is going to be a show that is on fire. Fire. Jill Rooks is someone I've known since 2006, folks. And you talk about instruments of peace, be an instrument of peace. Jill Rooks has some of the most amazing energy and spirit of any person that I know. Since 2014, she's been part of my Mastermind group. She's never missed a single live event or retreat. She has given her whole heart and soul to her business, which is called the Energy Lab here in California. Now, check out her background. 2007, Jill began personal training out of her garage, where she wanted to serve her clients differently than was available in big gyms, incorporating mindset, meditation, periodization, and nutrition, including cooking classes. Her training style revolved around the whole person and the life situations they were experiencing. She was still able to be mom, get the kids to school, help with homework, all while building the foundation of her future business. She and her husband, Sean, are celebrating 26 years of marriage this year in 2021 here. So, folks, check this out. I believe one of my favorite quotes, it goes like this: the optimist sees every opportunity in all difficulties, and the pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. Jill Rooks is the epitome of an optimist. Even in the heart of all the crazes over the last year, her business has actually flourished and increased in 2020. 2021, she's got some amazing things planned, and I want to talk about her spirit, her soul, and how to be an instrument of peace on today's episode. Without further ado, let's go out to Jill Rooks and the podcast episode now. All right, guys, I have Jill Rooks in the house today. Jill, welcome to the Impact Show.
Oh, thank you, Todd. It's awesome to be here.
Now, are you at the Energy Lab as you record this today?
I am absolutely here, hiding in one of my favorite little corners of the Energy Lab.
You know, I was sharing this in the introduction. When I think of Jill Rooks, I think of soul. I think the spirit that you bring, whether it be a mastermind retreat, a mentorship, an event, anytime I see you on social media, is soul. Your beautiful spirit shows up everywhere that you go. Tell me a little bit more about the Energy Lab. Where is it? How'd you get started? You give so much to so many right now. And during this pandemic, actually, the Energy Lab has actually flourished. It's actually done incredibly well serving the community. But give us a quick little background on the Energy Lab. I love the name, the Energy Lab.
Yes. Well, we are having our 10-year anniversary this year. So we've been in Redlands, California for 10 years. And a lot of people say, oh, I know where that is. But they mistake us with the Redwoods, which is northern. We are Southern California. We're just at the base of the mountains. If anyone is a ski fan in Southern California, that's where you stop before you go up into the hills. So halfway between LA, Palm Springs, and just a really cool little town. A lot of hospitals in the realm, just a lot of people who've lived here for a long time. So some nice history and some pretty deep families.
Yep. How many square feet is the Energy Lab?
We are 3,000 square feet. So Our studio, we started off in 2011 with just 1,500 square feet. And then in 2013, we had an opportunity to take over the space next to us. And so now we have one whole building at 3,000 square feet.
Now, growing up in New Jersey, moving out here when you were in high school, did you dream of becoming a trainer and a group exercise instructor? You know, was that your dream? No, it wasn't?
Not at all. Not even a thought of it. I got to grow up in New Jersey, like rural New Jersey, Sussex County.
Hold on, I got to do a fist bump.
Yes.
Where in Jersey did you grow up?
Sussex County. So all the way up north, right where like the tri-state area, they called it, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania.
What town was it?
Lafayette. Lafayette, New Jersey.
Man, I haven't even heard of that. And I'm a Jersey boy too.
07848. I'll never forget that address.
All right.
It was a farm country. But so my family moved here to California in my first year of high school. So I went from a small Catholic school, New Jersey style, to Southern California, 4,000 kids in the high school, and just some nice shell shock. But no, my kids joke because they always ask, your kids ask you, what did you want to be when you grew up? And I wanted to be like a TV anchor person, or I wanted to be like Katie Couric. That was what I was thinking. But life has, its plans for us, and God's got his plans. And so it's been fun to see. I mostly just keep my eyes open and say yes to most things. And
Mm,
it's interesting where it lands you. So here we
yeah.
are.
Well, you've always led with intentionality. I've known you since, was it 2006, 7 when we first met at Idea?
Yep. Somewhere back there in that idea conference in Anaheim.
What was the workshop? Do you remember the workshop?
Yeah, it was your OPB, which I always have a hard time remembering. So I have to say
Wow.
optimal performance bodywork to remember
Wow.
how that
Oh, so
goes.
I think that was 2006, Optimal Performance Bodywork. Folks, so check this out. OPB, this is before anyone like knew. I was a body worker, massage therapist. I get into hands-on work and I'm doing work, learned it from Double E and Dr. Bruce Costello down in Atlanta. And I think it was 2004, I approached IDEA about the idea of doing OPB as part of the IDEA Fitness Conference. And they were like, no way. We don't want, any hands-on fascial type thing. This was kind of taboo at the time. This is before it became readily popular in the fitness industry, and now obviously it's in every studio and gym and club. But back in the day, they didn't want to do it. Finally, they gave me this small space. I think it was 2006, maybe 2007. They gave me this small room where they could get 80 people in the room. And they're like, you can only have one table. So I bring in my massage therapy table. I think it was in Anaheim. I bring the table up and I set it in the front of the room. It was a little stage. And they packed it in. There must have been 120 people in that room that held 80. And I remember doing the hands-on specific techniques of optimal performance bodywork, which combined, some hands-on fascial work with some sports massage and some NMT type work along with some stretching. And I still remember that like it was yesterday. That's crazy. That was the first time we had actually met.
hmm
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was phenomenal. That hooked me. I mean, I read your story about your back
Mm.
and doubly. That it was the first time I heard your story, and then when I've seen all your books since, it's like, I don't know,
Well,
that just has always stayed with me.
I know you did a lot of studying with Thomas Myers, who, when you talk about fascia and connective tissue, and you've done quite a bit of work with him. And then obviously since 2014, been a huge part of the Mastermind group and the energy spirit that you bring. Gosh, have you even ever missed a live event? I don't think you have.
No, I have been to every one, and you didn't want to miss. You can't miss. Something's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Wow.
So
Well,
no, they're phenomenal.
well, thank you. Thank you. Talk to me about the Energy Lab. How did you come up with that name, the Energy Lab?
Well, I like you asked, I didn't know this is what I wanted to do. I actually went through my own weight loss journey.
Hmm.
So, we moved to California. I started to play sports, which was all new to me, being a rural Southern California or Jersey kid. And so I got into swimming, got into water polo, kind of pursued that through college, just intercollegiately. And it was fun. But once I finished college career, it was one of those when you're an athlete, you know how to eat. But once you stop moving, you have to learn how to eat differently.
Mm.
So I had gained weight. And then in my dating years, it was like Ben and Jerry's was the way to, go on dates. And so when we got married, I was much like I lost about 60 pounds after we got married. And then in a 2-year window, just realizing health, I got some wake up calls health
Mm.
wise. And that was eye opener because my family history is like a huge heart condition history.
Hmm.
My father passed away super young, just a massive heart attack. I mean, he was still with us then when I had my weight loss
How old was
awakening.
he when he passed?
He was 64 when he
64.
passed.
And you were how
Yeah.
old?
I was at that time, I was, gosh, 25 when I went
Okay.
through my weight loss journey.
Mhm. Mhm.
But he was always on diets here and there.
Sure.
One of his older brothers had already passed. He was in his 50s when he passed. The whole family. I never even knew my dad's parents, the
Mm.
grandparents, they went
Mhm.
early. So I knew when I had a cholesterol reading that was high, I was like, I have to do something about this. This isn't me. This isn't who I grew up to be
Mm.
and, conditioned myself to be. So going through my own weight loss journey, I discovered the swimming pool again. I discovered like Tammy Lee Webb and step aerobics. I bought my
Yeah.
little step. I had my weights. I had my videos. My husband knew my routine. I come home from work and this is what I do. Don't bother me. Leave me alone. I got my workout plan. So when we moved, I was living in Seattle at the time after college, and then we moved back down to Southern California just to have family nearby. And I just jumped right into the gyms and I jumped right into the pools. And the aqua aerobics classes would always get in my way. You'd have a goal. I'm going to swim a few miles today, however many miles. It's like, I got to hurry up before the aqua aerobic class gets here because they're going to kick me out. So one day I didn't make it. I was like running late or whatever. Like, okay. So the instructor's like, why don't you just join us? And I'm like, oh, brother. So I joined them and I had the best time. It was like, we're just like jumping around in water and you can feel it and you can feel your muscles fire in different ways. So I kept going and the instructor's like, why don't you teach? And I was like, oh, okay, why don't I teach? So I started my group exercise experience in my fitness career in those swimming pools and said yes to be an instructor. And then, of course, opportunities opened. The original spinning certificate, Johnny G came along, and then
Yep.
I just kept saying yes. So as you say yes and you learn more, then they ask you to teach more. And the more you teach, the more people you meet. And the more people you meet, the more fun you have. And one thing led to another. I was like teaching the night I had my son, my water broke, and I had taught an aqua aerobics class in the pool deck that day. So it's just like, I just lived through all my life experiences at that point on, just in fitness and just really enjoying the people. So that's where fitness, and I still don't know it was going to be a career. I thought it was just for fun
Yep.
until you just keep doing it. And like I said, the more people you meet, the more fun you have, the more lives you get to affect, and opportunities kept coming. So as long as I kept saying yes and it fit, my family and our values, and the Energy Lab came because I taught until I decided I should train people, because you're teaching big, big classes, but you can't really have like a one-on-one effect. I mean, you can have an overall effect and you can really send a message, but you see a lot going on in those big classes that you can't, pick someone out. So you have to be more mindful of like overall things you might say, and you hope somebody gets it who you're really talking to. So when I decided to become a trainer, it was probably after that idea conference, because I started my training in 2007, my personal training certificate. And I started in my garage because the gyms I was at, I just didn't feel comfortable with what I saw the trainers doing necessarily. And I just knew I had been introduced to TRX, which the gyms didn't even have yet. I'd been introduced with like the OPB, the work you were doing, which was like just how to help the whole body instead of like this really different approach the gyms had. So people found out I was training in my garage, and suddenly I had like a full schedule. And so I had to dance it around laundry and kids' breakfasts and lunches and school pickups and drop offs. And a friend of mine from college, she's like, Jill, you've got more. You need to get out into, the big light. And I was like, I don't need to do that. I'm good. So she literally came and she picked me up and we just drove through town, and she called all the signs that had a for lease on it. And she got a hold of the one landlord. She said, yep, we'll see you in a few hours. And then we sat down with him. He said, this is what it is. She said, we'll take it. And we had a lease. And I really just, I mean, her name is Denise Connell, and she was like a pilot for American, but a great college friend. We still are in touch. And sometimes I just like want to like, oh, I wish you were here sometimes, because she lives, all over the world. But just to see what we're doing, I'm so proud of it. But also it's like, dude, you got me into this. This is crazy.
Yep.
But that's where it started. The Energy Lab was, I had no idea what to call it. I mean, this was the year Jack LaLanne had passed away also. So in my mind, he was a big presence for me. And in my mind, it's like, well, Jack and Jill, and everyone's like, oh, you can't go there. But, you have all these people you want to honor who've like been a part of your process. So we had some design friends in town who do all the branding for different businesses, and they did us a favor because I'm starting with nothing. I had no savings for a business. I had a few BOSUs, I had a few TRXs. I literally had anything I'd make, I'd spend on equipment, make something, spend it on equipment. And so I came with only what I had. And the branding company came up with the Energy Lab after they listened to me talk for probably 6 hours about how I train, how I teach, the people I work with, what I hope for this to be. And I had dreamed of the Energy Lab actually in 2006. I have a journal dated. It was like July of 2006, about a place where people could go, a neighborhood, more of a community. We would have like a juice bar, and we would have BOSUs, things the gyms didn't have at the time. And I had totally forgotten about that journal until every year I do my goal setting workshops. I pull that journal out and I tell people the power of journaling is huge, because we opened the Energy Lab in 2011. The meaning of the Energy Lab is there is an actual energy lab in Kona, Hawaii. And when you do the Ironman there, everyone says if you can make it to the energy lab, you're going to be okay. So it's about mile 20 in the marathon portion, which is the last portion. And literally, if you can get to that last bit of that Ironman, you're going to see the light. So they ran that by me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like really cool. My mom, she has done a marathon in every state,
Hmm.
and then she started to do triathlons. So the whole triathlon thing resonated with me. Several of the people I was training had done triathlons. I was pretty engaged in the triathlon community here in town. So the idea of the energy lab being this beacon of light and this just a lighthouse for athletes was I knew right away. And there's always that worry, are people going to know what we do? We still get phone calls. People are like, what kind of a lab are you? We're like, no, nothing to do with
Yeah.
vials.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we've made a name for ourselves that people now can identify what we do here.
Well, I think it's a perfect name for you because, folks, if you know Jill Rooks, you know she has amazing energy. And even in times of difficulty, I remember when your mom was passing, the balance and energy that you were able to uphold in a very difficult time of your life was awe-inspiring to see how you handled your family, handled your community, handled holding your mom's hands up until the very end. You talk about energy. We think of energy sometimes. It's like it's got to be this, crazy energy all the time. Sometimes you think of me, guys, as like this crazy mind right maniac guy that's always nuts. And while that is true many times, I think a lot of the key is actually going yin. And one of the reasons why I want to have Jill Rooks on here is because she has found the delicate balance between yin and yang. Again, whether it be at a retreat at the Energy Lab here in California, I think so much of that awareness of spirit, of soul, of energy is crucial for all people, not just coaches and trainers, to do that. And I do want to talk to you about that later on in some of your practices of how you maintain sanity in insane times, crazy times. But I've got a couple rapid fire questions that I'm gonna see if you can respond quickly to them. Are you ready?
All righty, I'm
All
ready.
right, here we go. And this is in true Energy Lab format. Jill, what brings you the most joy today?
Oh my gosh, working out, sweating, connecting with people, like living on the edge. There's that fine line
Mm-hmm.
right under your skin, right where things like the heart is pumping.
Okay.
I would say, and I see it in lots of people, but whoever I'm with, that spark of life, definitely.
What is something you're most excited for in the future?
Oh my gosh. My kids are both at really cool places. My son's 21, my daughter's 19. And just the idea that life is just this like open road for them, but to see their decisions, to watch them scrutinize the world we're living in now. I mean, I'm I'm emotional about it, which means I can hit any emotion in that whole range. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just it's mind blowing that you can raise people to be good, moving into the world adults and
Right.
with a lot of good hopes for them.
And you and Sean also celebrate, is it 26 years anniversary coming up?
Yeah, we had
Jeez.
25 last year, so I had to do the math. I'm like, all
Yeah,
right, yeah.
26 year. Congratulations. That is massive. You talk about accomplishment, folks. You're doing it on all levels, Jill. How about this? What's something no one knows about you that probably should know about you?
Oh, how interesting. Um, that they should know, but I don't know if they should know this about me. But
Or that you would
when I
like for
was
them to know about you?
when I was in high school, I had a lot of achievements that I just they just seemed normal. They seemed like, well, yeah, that's what you do. So when I talk to people who like hear about, you
Mm,
were junior class president, you organized your prom, yes. Oh, and you were Miss Teen of Southern California, well, yes. Well, you went to the inauguration because you were chosen in the leadership conference, well, yes. But it's cool how all of those experiences, like I didn't see them as great things, but they accumulate into making you the person you are
mhm.
and just having a lot of worldly views of other people. And what I love is like I majored in communication studies. So that's one thing a lot of people, especially in the energy lab world, they look at me like I know everything about the body. And I love the body and I'm fascinated, which is why I've done all the dissection courses, because that's why I really understand it.
Mhm, mhm.
But what I love more is understanding how people tick. And so I can figure out the body, and most of us can, but to be able to experience a person. And I think a lot of that relates to experiences I had growing up. My parents were the same way. They always said yes, meaning we'll find a way. So my dad was a mailman. When we grew up in New Jersey, he worked 3 jobs. He was like a janitor, and he did pizza, and he was a high school football coach. And so that was to get all 4 of us kids through school. And it was just like they always found a way. So the fact that they always found a way for me to have these experiences that I was given, I just love that I met so many people along the way who now when I meet people, and I get to train, 16-year-olds and 88-year-olds, and I've trained 94-year-olds, and you train everybody, but to be able to relate to them is just, I look at those 2 things as parallel. Like, I learned this because of that, and I can do this because of that.
Yep. I love it. I love it. Final question for the get to know you part. How do you get your mind right on a daily basis? What's the key? What's the secret to staying Jill Rooks balance? What do you do?
Goodness, I have to work out and I have to meditate. I show up here right away. So I know some people have their early morning rituals. I don't. I jump in. My alarm goes off about 4:20. Got to be up by 4:30. Got to be out the door by 4:40. And literally, I have my clothes out the night before.
Wait, back up. You set the alarm for 4:20 and you're out the door by 4:40?
Oh, easy, Todd. Maybe that's something people don't know that they need to know. The clothes are out, toothbrush. It's like, it's an 8-minute commute and we're good. It's awesome.
Wow.
So I love that. I'm very low maintenance in that regard, and it's great. But
that's
once
impressive.
You get sweaty, it's all perfect.
Absolutely.
But then I have to have, and that just gets my juices flowing. And then the meditation time, sometimes I'm lucky, I get 3 to 5 minutes. Other times I get maybe 1 to 2, but when I encourage people to do it, I let them know it's not this like 30-minute whole long special ritual. It's just, I do have a special place here that I go into. I do always bring a journal with me, bring my timer. And I set the timer so I give myself a 1. I usually have people waiting for me in one way or another. But it just like drops me in quickly to a place where I can just empty. And it's my prayer time as well. When my mother was dying, when you had mentioned, what always came were songs, and I would just sit there and I would just feel songs from my church growing up. But there were only 2 songs. One song when she was still alive, and the other song when she had already passed. And they would just be with me. And then I would just write in my journal, and I'd try to remember the lines, and it was almost like I was being guided and led, and there were pieces of a puzzle in those words. And it wasn't vast, but it was just what I needed. So even today when I drop in, I try to just feel just that breath and that open space. And then when I walk out, my employees, the coaches, they're all like, okay, Jill's good. Days when I miss it, they're like, you got to go in that room. I'm like, I know, it just brings me back.
So you always do your meditation? Because I'm intrigued. I think a lot of our listeners are always intrigued. Like, I need to do a better job at meditating. It sounds like you have a simple practice, but a consistent practice of a few minutes each morning. Do you ever meditate if you're having a long day or a tough afternoon? And when you say meditation, are you like literally sitting there like, or are you just sitting there in quiet? Good. No, because people always want to know, like, they think there's this perfect way, or is it just total silence with a journal? How do you tell me more about it?
Be. Well, I like to have a little bit of a ritual. So I do have a fountain.
Nice.
And if they haven't turned it on yet,
this is good.
Yeah. If my employees who come in and set up the morning haven't turned it on yet, I just plug in our fountain. It's just a nice fountain. It's just a tabletop one, and sometimes it doesn't even work and the motor just hums because it hasn't been filled with water lately or whatever. But I have what's called a Zafu, which is just a simple meditation cushion. And I did invest in a few pieces: the fountain, the cushion, and a journal. And that's it. Everything else is my phone timer. And I sit there and I like to cross my legs. I like to feel my spine tall. I like to close my eyes and just kind of find the connection in your hands, the finger and thumb. There are different, what they call mudras, but I don't remember all that. So I just connect and nice. I'm happy with that. And then I will usually catch if I miss a day or two, I'll catch thoughts. And then I'll be like, okay, I know what everyone's talking about when they say I can't stop thinking, because, but most of meditation is observing your thoughts. So once you get to that place where you're aware that you're thinking, that's half the battle. So I'll catch the thoughts and I'll be like, okay, I could sit here and entertain this, but I'm just going to waste my time because that's still going to be there. So I try to like walk through a different room or curtain, and in my mind I visualize a lot and I just separate myself to where you get to a place where you actually feel like you just drop into something that is almost like a puddle, just like
Yep.
one drop into this, like what's going on inside. And when you drop in there, if you don't try to overanalyze or think about it, you just are an observer of it, you gain a lot of just like vibrations and hums in your body. And something different takes over that, like I said, sometimes the music will just come and then it's like, wait, was that a thought or was that something that I'm like gaining?
Mm.
So if it seemed like a thought, I'll kind of put it away. But then when I go into my journal, I try to just really freestyle journal, which means it's just words. And
Okay.
it's just like, it just a very stream of consciousness comes out. And that's when I realized what I learned in meditation. And
Mm.
so the journaling might take another 1 or 2 minutes. Sometimes I wish I could journal like 4 pages, but it's like, okay, wait, someone's waiting for me. I got to go. But some really good things come in the journal. And then I like to look back yearly. So, like just in the last month, a few weeks, I've been looking back at the journals, and it's
Hmm.
just like, wow, okay. Now, granted, COVID happened, and granted, things shifted our year tremendously. But I'm like, wow, I was in a really good place, or oh man, I'm still searching now what I was searching then. What do I need to do?
Mm-hmm.
So I it's a check-in for
Yep.
me.
I love it.
It's simple. And that's why I try to let people know it's 1 to 3 minutes. 5 minutes is extravagant. But if my timer goes off and I'm like, oh no, I'm good, I'm gonna stay here, I will just do an internal timer. And I'll like have to shake myself sometimes, be like, no, Jill, you gotta go.
So
So
Jill, if someone was listening in, they're like, I need to do more meditation. What would be like one or two things you'd say, do this to spend more time in meditation? What do you think are some key parts?
I would say if ritual and you feeling like you're entering a space is important, like that's important for me to feel like I am moving from my
Mm.
daily to my space, then invest in one or two things, which might be a candle. I mean, it might be a cushion. If you prefer to lay down, you can lay down. If you want to just stand and stare out a window, I mean, sometimes when I'm out of town or not at the studio on the weekends, I'll just stare at like a leaf or something outside till I start to feel like a vibration about it, which is why I like the fountain because it's a very rhythmic noise. And then I would say just be patient, give it 10 days, allow yourself breaks. You know what I mean? If you're like, I got 10 days in this month, that's pretty good. Can I
Yep.
do another month and get 12 days? Can I do another month and get 15 days? Like be patient with the process because it probably doesn't make sense to busy brains.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is a lot of books I've read, they just reinforce meditation so much. Like one of the things, I don't know, in our notes with you was the Tao of Pooh has this whole chapter called Busy Baxen. And if you ever
What was
read the,
that? What was that? Is that a book?
yeah, it's
What
a
was
book
it?
called the Tao of Pooh.
The
So it's
Tao
Winnie the
of
Pooh.
Pooh. Okay.
It's Winnie the Pooh characters in the Tao, which is the way written by Lao Tzu from, ancient times. And so they use Winnie the Pooh characters for us to understand the way. And there's a chapter called Busy Baxen. And it's a lot about Rabbit in Winnie the Pooh, where he's always going somewhere. He's
Mm.
always edgy, itchy, busy. So I also read a lot of children's books, and this one isn't a children's book, but I actually like my favorite movies are kids' movies, my favorite books are kids' books, but they really just bring you into a really simple place of understanding.
Hmm.
That's what we're doing as human beings. We're just like kids who've aged. We chronologically, like our years, our skin, our tissues are different, but we're all kids inside. And so when you can kind of relate life and meditation to that, it kind of makes sense. Like when you see your kids going crazy, you need to kind of like check them in and chill them out. And it's like, oh, that's all we are. So
Mm-hmm. So
there are
what's your
some
favorite
resources
movie?
like that.
What's your favorite movie?
Kung Fu Panda.
Nice. I think I'd say
Oh
The
my
Lion
gosh,
King. Lion
so
King, beside
good.
Rocky 4, of course. Like my favorite kids movie would be The Lion King. I love The
Yeah,
Lion King.
yeah,
Yep.
that's definitely it's a good
You
one.
you talk about three guiding principles of your life, things you try to live by. Can you share those three things?
One thing that I just I almost feel it every day, is be kind, because everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. And that is so relevant today,
Mm,
especially all of the judging of who is who and where they are and why they think that and what side they're on. And even, in a workout, a fitness setting, it's just like, well, they can do this, and well, why aren't they showing up? And I, as the coach or the trainer, we're privileged to know a lot of people's stories that are private and confidential, for whatever their reasons are. And so when you see other people kind
mhm.
of, we go right to so much judgment that, when you know someone's story, you can just understand where they're coming from and their whole perspective. And there's a lot of like heartache and pain and sadness that many people carry for a
Yeah.
long time. And so just in that practice of kindness, even when we don't understand things, it's usually because we're probably not meant to know. Once we know, we might not want to know. But just everyone carries something, and we don't talk about it. But it really, I think, creates a social dynamic if it's not, just understood, that kindness for
Do you
whatever
think
they're going through.
people do you think people naturally are kind? Like, in the sense of, like, right now, the last 9, 10 months, it seems like people are cray cray. Like, they're cray cray.
Yeah.
And y'all are laughing right now because y'all know I'm right, because y'all, like, you're thinking of someone right now that is not kind.
Oh,
But
yeah.
so I think it's a great mantra. You talk about be kind. How do you be kind when you're, like, pulling your hair out because maybe there are people in your life who aren't the nicest people right now, or you talk about everyone's fighting a battle, maybe they're fighting such a tough battle that they're in a really deep dark place. So how
Mhm.
do you keep coming from a place of kindness? Or do you have any recommendations of if someone right now needs to come from a kinder, gentler place? How do you do that, Jill Rooks?
Well, so I have one experience when I was teaching in the big gyms, aqua, or not aqua, but just regular aerobics.
Hmm.
It's kind of, it's hard. And I always told my kids, life is high school. When you graduate high school, you're still going to encounter the same people who are hard in high school. They're going to be hard after high school. So
Mm.
there are different instructors, and this kind of thing like, oh, you have more people in your class. And then they get a little bit like, they come to your class to see why you get more people in your class. And then they start to talk about you just because they're insecure. And so this went on a fair amount. And I'm like, wow, I just don't do drama. I don't do that. And I know in my mind that just, I'm not attracted to it or a part of it. So when I see people who were such good, beautiful people, but they were insecure in whatever way, for whatever reason, so they would almost put themselves in my way. So I had to just look at them so that I didn't feel any like, negative energy or attention or poison around them. I would just look at them to understand, well, what is their life, what's happening in their life. And
Mm.
it was kind of more of a mantra of kill them with kindness, of
Mm.
just like,
Love it.
I'm not going to let this change
Okay.
my mojo. I'm going to try and understand what's going on in your life, that, and you can't always get close to them, and that's fine. But like by observing, you can usually pick up and tell
Love it.
details of somebody. So once I understand what is fueling wherever they're coming from, then I know it's not about me, it's about them.
Yep.
And
Amen.
so
Amen.
I
Amen.
just don't even engage in it anymore. So it's easier for me to be kind because I'm not holding judgment
I
over
love
them.
it.
I'm literally kind of feeling sorry for them, but just in the fact that I wish, they could get help to resolve
Yeah.
whatever it is. But
Sounds like one of my favorite books called The Four Agreements. The Four Agreements, right?
there you
That's
go.
one of my favorites. What's number two? You got number one, be kind. What's the second of your three guiding principles?
Number two is, I really respect people who've gone before me and have
Mm,
taught me things. Because I just feel like that's the legacy, that's the path of life. Like none of us would be here without somebody who left something of themselves behind in us.
hmm.
And so, it's wisdom given by those who have justly gone before us, is worth passing on.
Mm,
And I have not been able to find an author on it. I found it as a card once. I framed it. It was up in the studio. I wrote a few blogs about it, because in everything I've learned it from somebody. And
mm.
whether it was like, I went to Catholic school, so whether it was nuns growing up, just like I had this amazing principal who just took me under her wing. And I mean, I just remember things she told me. I remember, my dad was huge in weird little wisdom nuggets from like a really simple guy. It was just like so many things, or when I have gotten into, career and fitness, that's why I follow Thomas Myers, Michelle Dalcourt, a lot of the people who I've learned from. I always want to make sure, and like you, when I did one of our boot camps, I gave everybody the Impact Body Plan book, and I was like, this is Todd, this is his writing, this is his thing. So it was really cool. When one of my members who read that, he's like, well, let's call what we're doing PMA. I'm like, what are you talking about, PMA? He's like, well, it's in
Yes.
this chapter, and it's Todd's basketball coach back then. It's this big guy, and he taught, where's this chain that says PMA? So I'm like, well, if
Wow.
we're ever going to talk about PMA, we're going to talk about Todd, and we're going to talk about Todd, we're going to talk about his basketball coach at high school in New Jersey, because that's what carried on. And that's so cool
Wow.
to me that like, we're just a piece, we're just like a string of information or energy for someone else to receive and to carry on someday.
Wow, that is cool. That PMA, read the Impact Body Plan, stands for Positive Mental Attitude, right? So PMA, positive mental attitude, is something that we all need to have. So that is awesome. Third thing that you shared was be open to every opportunity that comes your way. Those are part of your things. Talk about that. Be open to every opportunity that comes your way.
That's like when my friend Denise, she said, we're going to find a place for you. And I didn't have any objections because I had nothing to object. I mean, I had fear, and I think fear is different. So
Mm.
if we can kind of, and again, kind of the meditation puts you into that clearer path, but if you can't set or separate fear from things that maybe aren't meant for you right now. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So if an opportunity comes along, it could be like you just aggressively want it. And sometimes you kind of pound yourself into forcing it. And then I kind of call that muscling it, which doesn't
Yep,
always
yep.
have a good outcome. Other way would be fear and be like, okay, I really want this, but oh no, it's not, I can't, I'm not good enough, or all of those things we say about ourselves, the self-limiting things. And then
Yep.
the third thing is it actually meant for us right now? So I really want this. An opportunity is coming my way. I want to say yes. I want to say yes. And sometimes it just looks different. So when it looks different from what I would want it to be, I have to kind of shift my perspective a little bit, to say yes, but to understand what am I saying yes to. So I think the third guiding principle is also trust me, child, I have it all under control, signed God. And that's where it just sort of comes into like, okay, let go, higher power. There's something in the works for me. I believe like we're not in charge. I believe someone else is definitely in charge. And that came about a lot. Like you talk about when my mom passed away and being open to things. It was very interesting to see how different people deal with death.
Mm.
And I had the only death experience I have is when my father died. And that was, I was 35, the kids were little. We literally were called, hey, he's in the hospital, you need to get here right away. And they had just said to us, we regret to inform
You were
you,
25 or 35?
I was 35 then.
35. Okay.
So yeah, I had been through the weight loss thing. I'd learned from him. My kids were
Got it.
little, 5 and 7. And you experience life and death for the first time. So he had an instant heart attack, and that was, they couldn't
Mm.
save him. And so you're there and you're just holding on, and you're just like, you're struggling through, you don't even know what you're struggling through.
Mhm.
It's one of those surreal experiences. But when my mother passed away, I could be with her, and it was a 4-month process. And in saying yes to everything that came our way, it was having to make hard decisions
Mm.
and still to run the studio. I mean, her house, she was a part of our Energy Lab community. So it was pretty awesome that like she was loved here. She worked out here, she did everything here. She was just a few blocks away from here, that I could be here, I could be there. I could call a coach and be like, I've been up all night with her. You're going to have to teach this for me. Or clients would understand if I had to shift. So saying yes, but like there was this bigger piece of God just being like, it's okay. It's okay. Like I have a plan for you.
Mm. Mm.
So saying yes, you don't even know what you're saying yes to a lot of times. So it's like, it's going to work out with faith and good planning.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it. Jill, I don't know why, but I feel like you need to write a book. When I talk about the Four Agreements, I think your genre of book would be very soulful and spiritual, like the Four Agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz on that. So I'm planting a seed for you
Yeah.
at some point. We're gonna have
All
to write
right.
you get a
I'll
book out
take
there.
it.
And you talk about, I don't know if it's aligned with it. Talk about the gym shoes, the anatomical heart, and the peacock and rainbow. What is that all about?
Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. So when COVID happened,
Mm.
we all had to reorganize our studios, and let's see, well, we shut down like everybody else. Everything went black. We Zoomed everybody, Zoomed everything. I mean, I just lived on Zoom. And I didn't realize how hard that was. Like with the people who sit all day, I
Talk
am
about an
so
energy.
sorry.
It's hard
Oh
energetically.
my
Yeah.
gosh, that was
No doubt.
hard. So when we finally got in like June, I think the go ahead to be like, okay, like we're going to be able to open up again. We have a room, this is the room I'm in actually, that was our cycling room. So it's just this one room and all the bikes were in here. We'd have these great deep cycling classes and it was like really dark and we could get all kinds of music and lights going. And we're like, well, there's no point in ever having that room again because you are like, this close to each other. So we opened up the doors to this room and we put on these big barn doors. And that way it could still be a separate room for training, depending on where things go with this life, or it could be an open room so that it opens to the entire studio. And when it does, when we can have, 8 people in where you used to have 20 people in, we could section it off and have that many more people in.
Mm-hmm.
So with these barn doors, I knew I needed something to welcome everybody back to the energy lab. It was like, this is great, we're coming back, but I need something like that's a really good, fun piece. So I've been watching an artist. She's actually a San Diego artist. And I've been seeing some of her mural work. And I'm like, I want murals on my barn doors. And it was kind of like, is that a gym? Like, I don't care. This is the energy. This is the community. This is the feelings. So she and I went back and forth on drawings, and there is a planter behind me. She's done that for us also. But when she asked me about what I wanted, gym shoes have always been a thing. And that's when my father died. He was at the gym. And so when I saw him for the last time, all I could think was, oh my God, he has his gym shoes on. Like, I need the world to know you have to do everything you can to stay healthy. Like, it's not an option. Our bodies are the things that carry us. Like, you just got to stay healthy. So the gym shoes were a big piece of it. And she had this cute little gym shoe person. And then when my mother died, there was a peacock who always walked in front of her window.
I remember that, yeah.
And that is so weird. Like, who has peacocks just in their neighborhood? So she named the peacock Mr. Rogers, and we all knew Mr. Rogers. We got some really good pictures of Mr. Rogers. When we did her services, I just really went into the symbolism of the peacock and talked a lot about just the beauty and the Christian aspects of just like the hope and the life and the colors of the peacock. And then when she passed away, I had to have some of my coaches teach the class. I was actually coming into the studio to teach. My sister's like, okay, you need to come right now. And at the end of every class, we read a quote card. And this quote card said, you whose day it is, get out your rainbow colors and draw. And so she had just passed. And my mom had coloring books and colored pencils everywhere. And that was like her meditation, her therapy. And so when my coach who taught the class for me that morning sent me the picture of the quote card, she read to everybody at the end of that class, it was, you whose day it is, get out your rainbow colors and make it beautiful is the finish. And so I just kept the rainbow colors. It just felt like that summed up a lot of things. And so the doors, when this artist kind of conceptualized it, put it all together with me, she has the gym shoes, the peacock, the rainbow, and then the anatomical heart, because that is, I have a lot of doctors I train, and I always ask them so many questions because I'm just like, I want to understand this. When somebody has this or when somebody has that, or when I've done dissections, you can feel the actual like hardening of the heart walls. And it's just so interesting to know that we have some say in how we want that heart to function to some extent, or to a great extent, really. And how it's just in our power and capability to take control of that just by making some simple decisions, hard decisions, but decisions that down the road make life easier. And so the heart has always been a pretty important organ and muscle and vessel to me in every way, that she just drew this perfect anatomical heart. So one of my members, he's the head of cardiology at the hospital. I asked him if you could he's like, yeah, she did a good job. She's got this here and she's got this here and this here. And he's like, she nailed it. I'm like, okay, so we have a good anatomical heart in the studio.
There's the name of your book, by the way. It's the gym shoes, the anatomical heart, the peacock, and the rainbow. So we just wrote you a book on today's podcast. There's your book, because you can bring in your mom, your dad, your community, your community, which I still remember when we had that Strong event after Strong. You brought your entire people down on a football field, and there you are right there, fired up and all. But there's the
Yeah.
name of your book. I absolutely love that name. What do you think? Do we have a book?
I love it. Perfect. We'll take it. Yes, Hannah.
I think that's the name of the book. I actually truly believe that would be a great name of the book. You can share your soul with that. The gym shoes, the anatomical heart, and the peacock and rainbow. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, you're
Yes.
going to see that on store shelves here in 2021. If Jill can get with our friends from Scripter and rock and roll with that. Couple final questions I have for you, Jill, and guys, make sure you follow Jill Rooks and everything she's doing at the Energy Lab. Every year, as you all know, I love to have themes for the year. What's your theme this year, Jill, in 2021? Whether it be your personal theme or the Energy Lab's theme, do you have a strong theme this year in 2021?
Yeah. Yeah. For the Energy Lab, it is why color.
Why
And
color?
why color? Like why and color, the question mark.
Hmm.
And again, and it's funny, Todd, I talked a few weeks ago and you said something about you need to have colors out there. I'm like, dude, you just solidified it for me. So things people say, they don't know how much impact they
Interesting.
carry with us. But again, it's back to there's a tin of colored pencils that I gifted to some of our clients who have stayed home, who've stayed on Zoom, who are like going crazy,
Hmm.
like scared, fear, just like, oh my gosh, like they're not leaving their houses. I'm like, okay, we took care of all of our clients for the holidays who we see, and we got them like these fun shirts and stuff. But I was like, some of them, you just need something else. What is it? So I found this tin of colored pencils that says why color. And it just talks about because life needs more color, because
Amen.
there are rainbows, because there are like life. You can create waterfalls. You can go anywhere you want to go with like color. And so it just opened up the whole concept of like, okay, this new year, 2021, our theme is we know it's hard. We know, we're going to keep being here for however long, but why let it drag us down? Let's just roll out this blank, clean slate and let's just get our colors out and let's just make it beautiful. So create your canvas, put it all out there. Plus, color has like sound when it touches the paper or a paintbrush. It wakes up all the senses. Like when
Mm.
people think color, they think they can taste the strawberry. And they think, color, they can feel the seeds on the paper, or they can find, like sidewalk chalk color. So it just wakes up the senses to just don't forget about, use what we've learned,
Mm.
but keep living, like get out there and live. So
Mm.
our theme for the job is white color, and I'm excited about it. It's hard now to see people as much as we used to in the groups like we used to. So conveying it, I'll see how it rolls out through the course of the year. We have it on a chalkboard door right now, and we're talking about it,
Yeah.
but getting people engaged will be different.
Jill, I know I said earlier I was going to come back to this, and I want to come back to it. I shared that throughout this pandemic, you guys have actually flourished, right? Like the Energy Lab has actually done remarkably well. Why? Why has the Energy Lab done so well in the middle of one of the darkest times?
Um, I don't know. I have a lot of feelings about that, meaning, and I think it's intuition, I think it's God, and I think it's meditation, but you can
Mm.
almost feel things coming. And so, and one of our masterminders, she does, Rochelle, she has the VFit studios, and she
Mhm.
just has Zoom classes. And so I'd already been talking to her about, okay, tell me more about this. And literally on Friday, let's see, March 11th, Friday the 13th of March, right? We all kind of remember, well, a lot of us might remember that day. I had signed up to take one of her VFit classes to
Mm.
learn what's the experience in a Zoom class. And then an hour later, I drove up to Santa Cruz to pick my daughter up from college because kids all have to go home. They can't be, all of a sudden everything changed. It was the ultimate Friday the 13th. And so I take a Zoom class. I drive up to Santa Cruz. They have an incredible lighthouse there that I love to run through. It's pouring down rain. I know people are losing their minds a little bit because we just got this information like the world's going to end, is how everyone felt. And so I organized a meditation. I reached out just to everyone on my social media and our studio. And I was like, I'm going to do a meditation. I don't know how, because I don't understand the technology myself yet, but I'm going to find a way.
Mm. Mm.
So I'm sitting at the lighthouse, which is on the beach and pouring down rain in Santa Cruz. And I lead this meditation that was like awesome. I'm just sitting in the car and it's freezing and the rain's pouring down. And I hope they can hear me over the rain. And Lighthouse is doing its thing. And it was kind of like, we need to switch gears now. I mean, I
Mm.
finished that and I texted my husband, Sean was still down here and he runs the studio with me. And I was like, we need to switch gears. get the
Mm.
studio together, get the instructors together, get all the computers you need, get Zoom running. We're having a meeting as soon as I get back from Santa Cruz. I'm getting back as soon as I can. And we're Zooming Monday morning. Like, this
Mm.
is it. We're not missing a beat.
Mm.
So we didn't change our class schedule at all. We straight up just got the instructors in Sunday when I got home. We switched to Zoom, told all my clients same time, here's your Zoom link. We'll help you figure it out. You need equipment, we'll get you equipment. And we just
Mm.
went, and we didn't look back. It was like, what
Wow.
just happened?
Wow.
It was insane, but remarkable, because people, when you lead them, they're just like, okay, cool, I'll be there. And then we were there, we did
Well,
it.
well, you all hear about, being the eye of the storm or the calm in the storm, and then like I am the storm, right? But
Yeah.
Jill, what I would say is you have always had a very peaceful being. Your energy and your vibration is peaceful, and I think in this difficult time, leaders show up, and leaders aren't ones that are always barking orders or shouting orders. They can actually bring a sense of calm, peace, and tranquility to any situation. And when you told me the other day on a coaching call that the Energy Lab is actually up in the last 12 months, I was like astounded. But then I thought about it, I'm like, no, I'm not really astounded. Folks, one of my favorite quotes is the optimist sees every opportunity in every difficulty, and the pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. And Jill, you've always epitomized just the optimist. I know when we go into a live event at a retreat, mastermind retreat, Wayne Dyer talks about this. Alan Cohen talks about this, of having people in a room who uphold the energy in a room. You are one of those people, Jill, and whether it be at a retreat in the mountains here in San Diego, at the Energy Lab, at an event that you guys have done with the Full Pour Initiative, or anything else that you're involved with, you always have a way of bringing a sense of peace. That's a gift. And folks, when you hear Jill Rooks speak and you think about that, what I want you to think about truly is, how do I bring more peace, calm, and tranquility to any situation amongst the crazy of times? It's an insane time, and we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel and get through this difficult time, whether good times or bad times. How do we remain in this sense of tranquility? And I believe, Jill, today you discussed about some of your best practices, about the importance of meditation, about the importance of exercise and movement and getting your mind right, all of these things that we talk about all the time. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for sharing your soul today with us, your energy today. Really, really appreciate you, Jill.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you to all the listeners, because I know there's a lot of amazing people out there sharing this podcast and spreading it, and who just get a lot out of it. Like,
Mm.
I've shared it with a lot of my clients, and they really, really just enjoy the realness of it, and just the straight talk. It's
Well, I
good.
can't wait for the Energy Lab community to hear you on this one. Where can someone follow you if they want to learn more about the Energy Lab, learn more about Jill Rooks? Where can they best follow you, on social media or your website?
Social media and website. So social media is the _energy_lab, because I created it when Instagram was new.
Mm.
And there were other energy labs. So it's Energy Lab Redlands, and you'll see this burst attached to it. Are Jill Ruth Rooks. So my maiden name, Ruth Rooks,
Mm.
and both on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest. We have some fun on Pinterest. So yeah, and then the website's energylabfitness.com, and that'll
Mm.
get you anywhere.
Mm.
So
Jill,
thank you.
Jill, of course, final question. This is the Impact Show. I'm a man of impact and legacy. If you could, for a minute, inspire our folks, anyone listening in, and they're like, I'm going to listen to the very, very, very end of this podcast show. If you could impart some inspiration and wisdom, what is impact to you? And what would you like to share? Anything that you have not shared yet? What final words would you like to share with our listeners?
Impact to me is, it's a little bit what we talked about. It's just that thread. It's like, it's just holding on to your line. Sometimes it's thin, sometimes it's
Mm.
sparse, sometimes it's really dense and broad and thick, but we're all connected on this, like this thread, this line that just weaves throughout the world.
Hmm.
And when we're open to it throughout like generations, like people we get to learn from. So I would say just notice when people drift from you.
Mm.
And then when people are close to you, and there's a reason for all of that. It's kind of like that vibrational hum that just, when people come and go in our lives, they're always a piece of our life. But at some points, they make more of an impact. And at other points, Like when you said on the coaching call with me a few weeks ago, hey, make it colorful. You had no idea what an impact that solidified. Okay, our theme
Hmm.
is white color. It's been drifting in my head, but now I know. I just heard the final piece of your words saying to me, make it colorful. I'm like, that's it. So I think our words are powerful. And I think when we have an impulse to speak or to write or to share, it's so important to do it because it could be that tiny whisper that God might be using us as an instrument for that person to say. So I just think staying close to people and looking in the eyes and feeling the reciprocal heartbeat is it's a pretty powerful. Like all this other stuff is stuff, but when you just get that to that little seed, it's good stuff.
Jill, you are an instrument of peace. That is for darn sure. You talk about having words. Like, I didn't even realize I said that to you, but you
Uh-huh.
heard that. How each and every one of you listening in today, the words you use to someone, you don't know how that's going to impact them. So let's choose your words carefully. Coaches, teachers, trainers, doctors, nurses, fire, anyone, whatever you do, moms and dads, husbands and wives, the words you use are really important and people are hanging on to them. So let's be an instrument of peace. Jill Rooks, thank you for what you do and more importantly for who you are, because you are one beautiful soul. And I thank you for all that you do.
Well, thank you for letting me share and hang out with you. It was good.
Folks, Jill Rooks is still on the line. We haven't left her yet. So, hey, Jill, you've been in the mastermind now for what, 6, 7 years? What has the mastermind meant to you? Why do you love it?
Gosh, the mastermind is the mastermind sort of a non-negotiable. Even when business is questioned, it is the thing that allows us to stay in business and to stay right in ourselves.
Mm,
Mastermind is so different than any like professional organization I've been in because it's more heart centered and
mm,
it looks, I think how I look into our members' eyes at the Energy Lab, it looks into our eyes and our hearts and it looks for the best in us. It doesn't really critique us, but it actually looks to the people in it to pull out the best in each other so that we're not chasing our tails on things that maybe aren't meant for us, but we really get to see our gifts through someone else's eyes. So between like yourself, Todd, who just has a gift of creating that atmosphere and that energy, to the coaches that we all get to interact with, or to the Facebook group page, or to just individual members, there's
mm-hmm.
some amazing people with so much passion and drive that you can't
Right.
not want to be around them. It just lights you up. It really feels good for you to fulfill your personal mission because you kind of feel like you owe it to them.
Yep, yep. Napoleon Hill talks about that in his book, Think and Grow Rich, which in 2007, when I started the mastermind group, I was like, how do I get together a real powerful, passionate, purposeful group of people who can feed off each other? The mastermind isn't just about me, it's about all of the collective people in that. Jill, you're one of those people. And folks, if you're a trainer, you're a coach, I want to invite you today to be part of our family, part of our team. Jill Rooks is here today because she has given so much to the mastermind. And I learn, and the teammates learn from Jill, just like Jill learns from her teammates, right? So it's that collective unit of people. And I've been amazed at watching Jill's growth over the last 6, 7 years of all that she's done. And as she said, there's some of the most amazing people on the planet that are changing lives. So if you want more information, just go to toddurkinmastermind.com, toddurkinmastermind.com, and be part of the family. You'll be a teammate with Jill's, a teammate of mine, and some of the most amazing people that you'll ever meet.
Well, I also think if you have a second, some people like don't want to go to a gym because they want to get in shape first.
Mm,
I think if it's at all intimidating to join something called a mastermind, there's nothing to wait for.
mm,
You don't need to be at a certain level to start.
true.
Just like, any of us who work with people in the fitness industry, like it's so frustrating when you hear someone say, well, I can't work out. I got to get in shape first. I can't go to that class. Like, no, the whole reason to come to the class is to get the basics and the building blocks. The mastermind is a lot like that, where there is not a lot of judgment and there's no fear. It's ideally you can walk in just open
Yeah.
to knowing you don't need to know anything or everything. Just be open to taking in what you can receive.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think a lot of times people think there has to be like a right time, or now's not the right time, or hey, it's really bad in the industry right now, so I'm going to wait till it gets better, or I'm going to wait till my financial situation changes. What I often talk about, it's kind of like one of your three things you talked about is, be open to every opportunity that comes your way. You don't have to jump, but nothing changes without risk and struggle. It's actually when you jump in and you're part of it, all of a sudden you get momentum and energy in your life that it actually promotes creation. And that creation allows you to turn that into your best work, whatever that blank canvas is for you, of like, hey, this is a great idea I got from Jill or from Kelly or from Jared or whoever it might be. You get these great ideas. And next thing you know, you put pen to paper and get that accountability. So Jill, again, thank you so much for everything you do, for the energy that you bring, and so appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. It was fun.